So they say in the end there can be only one. So let's take a fun and in-depth look at the one and only cult action fantasy classic, Highlander. In modern-day New York, a mysterious man named Russell Nash finds himself locked into a unique battle with a select few, taking the heads of his adversaries and gaining unknown power from it. In reality, he is Connor MacLeod, born of the Scottish Highlands in 1518, slain in battle, but lived only to be banished from his village. Mentored years later by Ramirez, MacLeod learns that he is immortal, and is taught the ways of swordsmanship, and that when only a few remain, they will battle to the last to claim the prize. In the present day, MacLeod becomes wrapped up in a homicide investigation, while forensic pathologist Brenda Wyatt is driven towards finding answers to baffling questions regarding this enigmatic man. However, MacLeod is hunted by his centuries-old nemesis the Kurgan, the oldest and strongest of all immortals, who will plunge humanity into an eternity of darkness if he wins the prize. Now the immortal Highlander must fight with faith, heart, and steel to defeat his immortal enemy, as in the end, there can be only one. So Highlander comes to us from screenwriter Gregory Wyden, whose original draft was written as a UCLA classic writing assignment, which ended up selling for about $200,000, and his original draft differed in many certain ways from the final version we got on screen, including a darker, grittier tone, and many of the rules and aspects associated with immortals, such as the quickenings and the prize and the fact that immortals can't have children, didn't exist in his original draft, but obviously as the project moved forward, many things got developed and altered, and even the 1977 film from Ridley Scott, The Duelists, marked a major inspiration for Wyden moving forward, and the director we ultimately got for this film, Russell Mulcahy, had come off of many different lower budget films, and mainly a big MTV scene doing a couple of music videos for Duran Duran. And one of the things I absolutely love about Russell Mulcahy is his absolute visual style, and it brings so much of that here that you can definitely see that this is a film that was made in that type of era with that type of visual scope and punch and everything, that everything just has such a grandiose, epic type of feel to it. And I think Russell Mulcahy really kind of shows in this film that he had a lot of great flair and artistry to offer these sorts of genre pictures, where he could really wrap his vision around things and just create a very interesting type of film overall. And released in the United States and many international markets throughout 1986, Highlander was produced on a budget of upwards of $19 million, but only garnered about $12.6 million back at the worldwide box office, making a definite theatrical bomb. But through cable television and home video rentals and sales, it definitely became a very strong cult success, and it's very easy to see why in my view, because I love Highlander. Ever since I first saw it, I thought this was an excellent film with great fresh original ideas and great execution, with fantastic artistry involved in front of the camera and behind the camera too, to just create a very enveloping, rich, and interesting film overall, because right from the beginning it pulls you in with a great mysterious sort of haunting atmosphere that it has, that it's really getting you enveloped in a different type of tone, a different type of air of sorts with this film, that you're just seeing a mysterious figure that you don't know who he is, this Connor MacLeod character that you follow into this parking garage, and he does battle with swords with another guy, and he chops his head off. Then we get flashbacks of him centuries before in Scotland, and just like it just builds a great mystery that slowly unravels and unfolds in such a great sort of almost poetic and romanticized type of ways, with how the entire story is told and how the whole thing is structured to just have it flow back and forth between these very parallel type of stories in Connor MacLeod's past and present, that everything comes through with such a great emotional and dramatic grace and elegance, that I feel that Russell Mulcahy is one of those rare music video directors who completely understands the art of film to create a magnificent piece of work here that shines through on multiple different levels. And certainly one of the things that does shine through magnificently in this film is its cast, starting out with the fantastic Christopher Lambert, who had only done one English language film prior to this, the Tarzan film Greystoke, and was obviously a French actor, only just learning to speak English in this film. And regardless of that, I think he does a fantastic performance here, that he adds so many interesting and weird, world-weary qualities to Connor McLeod. Every time you get a little close-up on his eyes, it just paints such a deep picture with this character, just the emotional depth of this character, everything that he's been through his centuries of life. It just creates a very haunting aura around the character in certain scenes, and you get moments in the film where you definitely see the sort of loss that he's had, the loneliness, the sort of heartache that he's had through the romance that he's been involved with throughout the years between his old wife Heather and stuff that you allude to with Rachel. There's definitely a certain lovelorn, romanticized quality about this character, but there's the whole different side of this character too, a great dimensionality with the character of Connor McLeod, that in certain scenes he does have a great gleam in his eye. There is a certain charm to him when you see him dealing with Brenda in a lot of places. He's definitely a very charming character. He just has a certain great wit and humor and appeal to him that I think Christopher Lambert just does a fantastic job here, embodying all these multifaceted qualities of this very interesting and weary type of character that you really need a very talented actor to pull off all these different little things and have them show off very good on screen. And between Russell Mulcahy's direction and Lambert's performance here, and even the fantastic work they did with the accents that he had, that definitely worked very much with the flashback sequences that have a fairly faithful Scottish accent. But in the modern day sequences, they really worked very hard. They created a very nondescript type of accent to show that, like he said in the film, he's from a lot of different places, that he's traveled the world for all these years, these decades, these centuries, to really kind of absorb different little quirks in his accent and everything, that just creates just so much depth and detail with the character that comes through so greatly, that a lot of the sequels, none of this stuff actually exists. None of this stuff is added into the character so much, which makes this performance, the original one, stand out so much stronger, because there's so much more depth and detail, like I said, with the intricacies of the performance and the different qualities of the character of Connor McLeod here, that makes him such a fascinating character to be just pulled and drawn into the film so much, with everything that is done to present this character to us. It's just a fantastic way they've done this with the character of Connor McLeod, through performance and presentation, everything that they did to execute this character on such a great, charismatic and fascinating type of level. I think Christopher Lambert is a underrated actor. When he gets material this good and filmmakers to focus things in the right direction, you can come out with a very, very good performance from him. And I just enjoy every little thing he does in this film. But there's just so many exceptionally talented people in this cast, including the legendary Sean Connery as Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez, that Connery brings forth his usual sort of charm, wit, and charisma to a character with so much wisdom to impart upon McLeod. And the chemistry between Connery and Lambert is so greatly evident on screen that the two actors were actually calling each other by their character names in between takes on the few days of production that Connery was there for. So you can tell there was such a strong bond built between the actors that showed so richly on screen, that it added so much more to the film itself, and shows that Connery was still a fantastic actor to offer so much to the film, that I just love the more dramatic qualities also adds into the character, that you definitely see a certain seasoned sort of weary quality with him too, a little bit lighter than McLeod, but you can definitely tell from the few moments where he's talking about the Japanese princess that he was once married to, how it shattered him when she died. You just feel a certain weight, a certain quality with his character overall, that he does have a certain heartbroken quality to him too, but he has so many more charismatic and interesting qualities to him overall, that he is such a vibrant type of character to just shine forth on the screen. And you couldn't ask for a better actor to bring so much more credibility to this type of picture that you see someone the caliber of Sean Connery step in this film and bring forth such a fantastically solid performance that adds so much to the narrative overall. You just could not ask for a better actor to step into this character, even though using his usual Scottish accent for a guy who is supposed to be an ancient Egyptian. But the fact of the matter is, Sean Connery is one of those actors that is so damn good at what he does, the accent doesn't get away with the performance because the performance is just so damn good in the first place that the character of Ramirez is so beloved. And even though Highlander 2 is a really piece of crap movie, it is the only role that Sean Connery ever did twice, aside from James Bond. So there's a lot about what he felt about this character overall and his relationship with Christopher Lambert, that he brought forth so many great qualities. They enjoyed the character, enjoyed the experience on the film, and just brought forth a character that just added so much more to the film overall that I just can't imagine without Sean Connery in this role, adding what he did to it overall. But you also got the fantastic Clancy Brown putting in a performance of a lifetime as the Kurgan. That this is definitely in my top 10 favorite cinematic villains of all time, because this is just whatever it was with Clancy Brown, whatever it was when we got into that wardrobe or got into the makeup of this thing, whatever it is, it unleashed something just magnificent with his performance in this film, that he just turned into a completely different person, just turned into a completely different animal as the Kurgan here, just soaked completely into the fiber of this menacing, intimidating, insane type of villain that just like he is having. First off, he's having a hell of a good time in this performance, just soaking it all in and just living and breathing this character to such amazing, vibrant life that just it's larger than life type of performance that adds just that quality of the film that's crazy and unpredictable. And this character that every single second he's on the film, he has this sort of deliciously vile type of aspect to him that just eats up the screen. And just see even the flashback sequences where he appears in that amazing garb with the skull helmet and everything, and the black horse. He's a frightening sight to see in this film. And in the modern day sequences with all the almost looks like Mel Gibson from The Road Warrior in his leather jacket and everything, but also a little bit of a punk vibe to it too, that it just works so exceptionally well, the way the character looks and how Clancy Brown just brings forth every threatening quality with his presence, every little thing that he does, the verbose charisma, how he owns that scene in the church where he's just going right off the deep end with his character, but keeping it so tightly in line with everything this character is. Clancy Brown, like I said, puts forth a performance of a lifetime that always, from this point on, every time you see Clancy Brown pop up in the credits of a film, you just gotta know how well he's going to pull it off. And he's had some other good performances in his career that shows that this is not just a one-off type of thing. He is a very exceptionally talented actor, but he got a role like this that just allowed him to chew it up in the best way possible and just come to such a fantastic life. And it was almost a shame that he had previously worked on a film before this where the prosthetics and everything really kind of caused an allergic reaction to him, so he almost turned down the role of the Kurgan because of the prosthetics he would have had to wear in the latter half of the film when the Kurgan alters his look to avoid being caught by the police. But it's just the fact that they came up with some new technology to allow him to do the film, and goddamn, I can't imagine anyone else embodying this character with as much zeal and as much just complete full-bore intensity that Clancy Brown put in this thing. Unbelievable in my view. But it's just the fact that everyone in the cast puts forth such a solid performance. Even Roxanne Hart makes the character of Brenda a very strong one, with a very dogged sensibility about trying to figure out who exactly Russell Nash really is. And you definitely see the chemistry spark off very, very well between Christopher Lambert and Roxanne Hart as these two characters have further exchanges throughout the whole film. You just see something very special develop there, and I think their chemistry is fantastic. And I think everything just builds very organically between the two characters up to a very tender and intimate moment in the final act of the film, that everything just feels very strong with every single character dynamic and every single performance that this film has. I think Russell Mulcahy directed everyone just perfectly and cast everything exceptionally well. But as I said earlier, I absolutely love Russell Mulcahy's visual style with this film. The cinematography of Highlander is absolutely stunning and spectacular to me, because I just love everything that Russell Mulcahy uses to create the atmosphere of this film, and the visual look of it overall has a very grand, almost operatic look at certain times, mixed in with a very gritty urban type of feel and a lot of different things as well, to really kind of evoke the different periods of time that are in, to still give it a really sort of grounded, gritty type of feel to it, but still creating a very vast, open, and operatic, almost romantic type of fashion too. I love how they use the wide angle lenses in this film. Just that is such a signature Russell Mulcahy type of thing. All the different interesting angles they use, whether it's very much down low, or just different angles that he uses to really kind of evoke different types of feels and tensions and sorts in the film, really come off very spectacularly with this thing. And just a lot of the different camera moves they use has a great sort of just a sweeping type of feel overall that just brings more of a theatrical cinematic flavor to the film overall. There's just so much of a flair that I think Russell Mulcahy probably very much did come out of his music video filmography and everything, working with Duran Duran and various other bands, to really create a very strong visual style that really kind of captured a great imagination and just caught a lot of people's eyes. Doing that type of work translates fantastically to this film, that there are a lot of people who came from music videos that bring a lot of great visuals, but they don't really put together a good story. They don't know how to do film very well. But like I said earlier, I think Russell Mulcahy understands all the nuances to create a very good film. But obviously the visual style is so just enveloping and so magnificent to my eyes. I just love how he uses all these brilliant transitions, the visual transitions, whether it's from the rising up through the parking garage up into the Scottish Highlands, and all the other visual cues or whatnot that he uses, the transition from one time period to the next. It's very interesting. It's very, again, very music video inspired style that just makes this film just a visual feast, that this film just envelops itself and injects itself so much with such a stunning and energetic type of visual style that just propels it forward so much. There's so much energy going on in the thing, but there's also so much atmosphere as well, that there's almost film noir type of visuals in the film, with how Russell Mulcahy and his cinematographer use all the fog and the lighting and the silhouettes in certain sequences to really evoke a different style of feeling from the audience. Overall, it's just a visual masterpiece to me, that the cinematography is just an epic, grandiose type of thing that I absolutely love. Even when you get into the climax of the film, that you just have a fantastic style to it that very much was the intention, that it would play out almost like a stage production, a big opera with sweeping camera angles and stuff like that. And even the opening shot of the film through what was supposed to be Madison Square Garden, where they got the camera just floating throughout the entire arena, was on this very innovative type of camera rig with 4 different wires, computer controlled, sweeping the camera throughout the whole thing. So it's this great innovative type of style that Russell Mulcahy just used all these cutting edge techniques to really create a very visually stunning type of film that has always stuck with me so strongly, that if there's one thing that makes Russell Mulcahy a filmmaker that is worth noting, it's his visual style in so many different ways. But there's so much more beyond that with this film to really take away on that type of grandiose level, including the music of Highlander, starting off with Michael Kamen's fabulous score in this film, because Michael Kamen's among my top 5 favorite composers of all time, and the Highlander score is absolutely one of the glowing examples of his magnificent talent, that you just see what he did with this film, creating a very haunting atmosphere to it, with the main theme just has a very mysterious type of feel to it overall. And a lot of the different things that it uses and weaves throughout the entire score of this film, including the sweeping romanticism of the film that just envelops you in so much of the emotion and the love and heartache that these characters go through. Michael Kamen's score just very much envelops those emotions on such a beautiful type of level, but then you also have the music of one of the most celebrated and iconic bands of all time, Queen, making this one of the best film soundtracks of all time. Their music was such a perfect fit for this style of film, again with the sweeping romanticism, the epic operatic qualities. Queen is obviously one of the most operatic and showmanship type of bands that has ever existed, and they create it with such amazing artistry too, that they put together so many fantastic songs. They only came into the film intending to write like one song, but after the band sat down and watched a good bit of footage from the film, each one of the band members, Freddie Mercury, Brian May, a couple of the others, really just started working on different types of songs to punctuate different feels and styles and emotions from the film. Also, you got the fantastic Princes of the Universe has become absolutely synonymous, not through just the first film, but the entire original television series became the main theme of the franchise in a certain way. And a lot of the other songs, Who Wants to Live Forever, over the sequence, where you see Connor not aging, but opposite his wife Heather, her coming to the end of her life, and the beautiful moment in the film. It's just heart-aching, heartbreaking too, that you just see this sequence with Freddie Mercury's vocals over it, and all this type of stuff, the beautiful romantic type of feel that it has. It's such a great song with so much great beauty to it. But there's also songs like A Kind of Magic, which is just a beautiful type of song in and of itself, and just so many other songs that Queen just injected in the film to create different type of styles with it. Some of them were a lot harder rocking type of songs that just added more of an intensity to the film, and just different things that they did really just created one of the most fabulous collection of songs that any film has ever had the privilege to have. And they even recorded, because you had the whole thing with Kurgan where he's playing chicken through Manhattan traffic and everything, just started singing New York, New York. So Queen recorded a short snippet of the song New York, New York, and basically what you hear in the film is all they ever recorded of that song. But just like how much they just injected themselves and threw themselves into the project to create so many great songs and just enrich the film on that deep level. It's just unparalleled in a certain way that this band, again, one of the best bands that's ever existed, just created iconic classic songs that just still hold a great heart with the entire franchise, the entire fandom of this film, and everything else Highlander. Queen is Highlander. When you think of that, you just cannot not think of these songs in it and everything. Just, if these songs did not exist in the film, it would lose so terribly much. But because you got one of the best composers and one of the best bands of all time coming together on some of these songs, like Who Wants to Live Forever, just bringing all this amazing musical talent in the film, is just exploding with that type of thing. Just the depth of beauty with this music throughout the whole film. It's just words can't do it justice in my view. And it's just very sad that we've both lost Freddie Mercury and Michael Kamen by this point in time, two of the best musicians I've ever seen tap into the field of film and rock music. Absolutely phenomenal. But it's also interesting to note that many of the versions of the songs that are heard in the actual film differ from the final mixes used on the Queen album A Kind of Magic. But with the 2011 special edition of that album, they did finally release the original mix of A Kind of Magic heard at the end credits of this film. But many of the other mixes that are heard in the film have not been officially released, and there's never been an official soundtrack release for Michael Kamen's music in the film. But there is a sort of small collection of music from the first three films available on iTunes and also CD release. But you also got a couple of Queen music videos out of the whole deal, with the Princes of the Universe video actually being directed by Russell Mulcahy, and actually featuring Christopher Lambert and Freddie Mercury dueling it out with swords. Absolutely fantastic. And just the fact that you can't go wrong with the music in this film. It is absolutely fantastic on every level. It's just an absolute experience in its own right. Aside from inclusion in the film, fantastic songs, fantastic score overall. But moving on to a little bit more the technical side of things with Highlander, that it's a fairly low budget type of film. It definitely shows that in a lot of its qualities here and there. And some of the effects between visual and practical are a bit of a differing quality. Obviously, the practical effects with all the pyrotechnics that you get when someone's head gets chopped off and their power gets transferred over to the other immortal, that stuff is fantastic in the film. How even in the parking garage or in the alleyway when Kurgan takes Castigear's head, everything just explodes in just a complete fiery type of fashion. Just, it's immense, and it just shows a lot of bombast and epicness in that type of fashion. But some of the visual effects in the film kind of, they're as good as they could be for what kind of money they had to work with on the film, I'm sure, because it's mid-80s sort of rotoscoping effects for all the power being transferred and all the type of stuff. And even at the end of the film, the prize has some good and bad type of stuff depending on the certain moment in the quickening and everything. But in general, I think a lot of the visual effects do aid the film in such a fantastic type of fashion that obviously as the franchise went along, they employed a lot more of that type of stuff to amp up the quickenings, to make them a much larger affair overall. But here in the first film, they did a very solid job making those sequences a very special treat for people to see and show the absolute immense power being transferred from one mortal to the next. It very much does the job very well, despite some of the visual effects not kind of holding up too well. And especially watching the film in HD for the first time, when Connor wins the prize, now I can definitely see the strings holding Christopher Lambert up to the ceiling and everything. So it definitely shows itself very, very much now in HD, but it's still, for what they had to work with, all the type of stuff, I think they did a very good job, the best job they probably could have done with all the resources that they had available to them. And like, they shot on location in Scotland and New York, even in England too. So they used all the money that they had, all that $19 million that they probably had. They used it for a lot of good type of effect in this film, shooting a lot of different locations, making the money very much on screen as much as possible, and just using the best effects that they could afford with what they had. But I think everything they did with that is just a fantastic type of thing. But also, one of the best things in the entire Highlander franchise, when it's really damn good, are the sword fights and the action of the films and even the television series too. And going ahead with this film, they got some of the best people in the industry, because they both worked on the Star Wars trilogy with stunt coordinator Peter Diamond and swordmaster Bob Anderson, choreographing some fantastic fights in this thing. Even from the first scene that you get, where Facile and Michalak are battling, a lot of great stunt work and sword fights that really brings forth a very visceral intensity, that it doesn't feel like a sort of play or whatnot. It doesn't feel like a dance. It feels like visceral type of combat that really just, it gets you amped up. Just like, that's the thing about Highlander. That's what you love about Highlander. You see these guys battling with the swords, these fantastic duels that everyone has. Every single one that they have in this film just adds so much more to the intensity, the adrenaline that you have with this thing. It's so fast-paced, it's so kinetic, but it's just so well choreographed and captured on film that I think everything that they do to really capture the action in this film is absolutely spectacular. That they photograph everything with nice wide angles so you can see all the dramatic movements with the swords, and just capture all the stuff with very sharp editing and dramatic visuals, and again with a great operatic sense at the most pivotal type of moments. All the action is captured magnificently and choreographed by some absolute masters in the field to just make this a very epic type of film with great payoffs and great dramatic build overall. There are so many things with the film of Highlander, with everything that goes into it, with the story, the concepts, the characters, everything with that, including all the fantastic visuals, the great action that it has, everything that comes together in such a great package for an absolute genre cult classic here, that I think Highlander is a film that does get a little bit diluted from all the sequels and all the type of stuff that's kind of going forward from the franchise, and not hit it quite so well. Some have been absolute shit. But the fact that you go back, you watch and enjoy the original Highlander, you'll get so much from it, I think, if you just watch it as his own film and not have it have the memory tainted by a lot of the sequels that really went to shit. You watch this film and you just see what you originally loved about Highlander in the first place. And it's very interesting that there were a number of deleted scenes and scenes that were actually lost in a fire in a film lab that would have added even more to the story of Highlander, that watching again is like, I would have loved to have a couple of these scenes in the film if they actually existed still. That you actually had an earlier introduction with the Kurgan as he was battling another immortal in New Jersey who was fighting with twin swords and everything, but this character ended up being so weary and worn out of his immortal life that she allows the Kurgan to take his own head in a very interesting type of fashion there too. And there would even be a scene to give the character of Castigair a little bit more screen time, where him and Connor go to a nightclub and have a good time of things, and they end up encountering Detective Bedso. So it's like a few other little things in the film just would have added just a little something extra, like, yeah, getting a little bit more of Castigair, getting a little bit more of a connection with this character, because as in the film it is, he's only got about 2 scenes, and then he's gone. It would have been nice to have a little bit more to kind of build up a sort of kinship with this character a little bit, kind of care for him a little bit more before he gets his head decapitated by the Kurgan. And it's very interesting that when the film was originally theatrically released, United States audiences got one cut of the film, while international audiences got a different cut of the film, which was ended up being very much close to what the director's cut would be. And just the fact that the US theatrical cut has a lot of things cut out of it that really add much more to the film, getting the backstory on Rachel with this flashback to World War II, where she meets Connor and everything, and various other little things in the film that add much more to the story, just little bits and pieces, a couple of scenes here and there that just add more to it than what the US audiences got in the theaters in 1986. Even the Blu-ray release, while not having any of the audio elements, still shows a few little snippets of footage that were ultimately cut out of the film. Would be nice to have a trained lip reader to actually understand what people are saying in these cut scenes, but the fact of the matter is there's a lot of cut footage from the film that no one has really been able to see in its full form, but the fact that version we have is still a great film in my opinion, that there's just so much about Highlander itself that is just such fertile ground with so much fantastic ideas and imagination here. It is kind of a shame that it was a closed-off ending, that obviously Gregory Wyden and Russell Mulcahy and all the producers said this is one full closed story. No thoughts towards a sequel, but then we ended up getting sequels to a film that really had no place to get a sequel made, because all the immortals are dead now. Connor McLeod has the prize. Everything's tied off. Conclusive, definitive ending. And then we got sequel after sequel after sequel. And people might say Highlander 2 is one of the worst sequels of all time. If you've not seen Highlander the Source, and I don't endorse anyone actually going to see Highlander the Source, because no hyperbole or whatnot, it is the worst film I've ever seen in my life. It is a giant crapload of shit. I won't go on a rant, but just the fact that it is a terrible fucking movie that has absolutely no business being a Highlander film, because it actually has no reverence or respect for it at all. Least you could say about Highlander 2, has a fantastic score by Stuart Copeland, has gorgeous cinematography, and can be entertaining in certain places, but the story's a damn mess. Third film in the franchise, it's a very weak type of retread of the first film. Nothing fantastic to do, but easy to put on like a Sunday afternoon if you got nothing else to do for 90 minutes. Go ahead and watch it. And you got a Highlander Endgame, which pretty much was a film that tried to tie the television series with Adrian Paul as Duncan MacLeod, and Highlander Endgame tried to bring Connor and Duncan together one complete adventure. But as with most of the Highlander films, there are a lot of fucking mess behind the scenes, and there's like 3 different versions of that film to watch because it was such a goddamn mess. They didn't know exactly what the hell to do with it. Kind of entertaining. It has some good things in it that I do enjoy, but it's just not a very solid type of film to really go out on. And again, less said about Highlander the Source, the better, because it's a steaming pile of crap. And I've never seen the spin-off series Highlander the Raven, and it's probably good, because I've not heard too many good things about it. Again, big mess behind the scenes, and from what I hear, it's not a very good show, but I definitely think the original Highlander is a fantastic film that just adds so many different elements together in such a fresh and original storyline for its time. Just a fantastic thing, and they've been throwing around, doing a remake for the last couple of years, having people attached and people fall out and things going here and there and nowhere. And like, if you're going to go forward with anything in the Highlander franchise, if you're intent on doing anything more, I think a remake is the only way to go, because goddamn, you can't sequelitis this any worse than it already has been. Might as well start fresh. Try to do something different, and if you're going to try and make it a franchise, at least you can make it less of a mess by leaving it a little bit more of an open-ended thing, and just do whatever the hell you want. But the fact of the matter is, whatever they do, if they ever try to do another sequel, God forbid, or they try to do a remake, we always still have the original here to enjoy forever. So, you guys definitely enjoy Highlander, I'm sure, or else you probably wouldn't be watching the video. But I would love to hear what you guys love about Highlander, whether it's the first film or anything else in the franchise. Just post your comments below, because it's a film I've always loved. I think I even started watching the television series before I ever saw the film. So it's like, Highlander's always been there for like 20 some odd years for me. It's just something that I love so much that, again, the television series just took off on a fantastic type of fashion, with a few missteps here and there, but just like, I really love the concept, I love the characters, I love the feel, the vibe, the mythology of it all. So much stuff to get into, so I hope you guys will get into that in the comments section below, and give a big thumbs up here on the video if you enjoyed what you saw here, and of course, spreading the whole links around, your social media accounts and everything, Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, whatever you have. I would highly appreciate it to get more people interested in what's going on here, and especially anyone else who really loves Highlander. I think they hope they would enjoy this too. So thanks for watching, guys. This was sort of a spur of the moment review, but just like, it caught me, it sparked me. It's like way overdue for me to do something Highlander related like this. And I mentioned a little bit of Highlander 3, that a little bit of helping my friend Oliver Harper here on YouTube with his Highlander 3 retrospective review, giving him some footage from the US Director's Cut DVD. So I definitely implore you guys to go check out his reviews of the Highlander films. They're very fantastic, and he's one of the top inspirations for me too, that when I see him do great videos, it just motivates me to do something just as good. And I've been pushing myself very hard this year to kind of live up to my own standards that I want to live up to. So hope that's made for some much better videos for you guys, and you enjoy all the hard work I'm putting in here. So going to slow down a little bit, going to take some time, and we'll be getting Creed, the sort of Rocky spin-off here, right before Thanksgiving, and hope to be working on my Predator franchise retrospective soon, and a few other things coming up in the pipeline before the end of the year. And that's pretty much all I got going on, pretty much all I'm going to lay seeds for at this point in time. But thanks for watching, guys. I very much appreciate it. I just love that we keep building up more subscribers here. It's getting close to 1,000. We're not, in my view, not terribly far away, because you keep getting more and more subscribers all the time. And I thank you for hitting that subscribe button, that thumbs up, and posting your comments and all that stuff. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for watching. So take care, and bye-bye.